Otto Preminger presents Exodus, the biggest bestseller since Gone with the Wind, read by more than 50 million around the world. Now on the screen, an epic of our time, The Birth of a Nation. With Paul Newman as Harry Benkanan, Eva Marie Saint as Kitty Fremont, Ralph Richardson as General Sutherland, Peter Lawford as Major Caldwell, Lee J. Cobb as Barack Benkanan, Sal Mineo as Dove Lando, John Derek as Taha, and introducing Jill Howarth as Karen. Every scene filmed where it actually took place, on the island of Cyprus and in Israel.
I'm 15 years old now, Dove. I'm not little anymore.
You shouldn't have come here in the first place.
But, Dove, you're always fighting, and you're always in a place where you might be killed. And if anything should happen to you before I told you how much I love you, I just wouldn't want to leave anymore. Please love me, Dove. I'm not afraid.
Life magazine says Otto Preminger's film Exodus goes beyond the book as a tale told in proud passion.
I will not take him back to Carolus. He'll go to Palestine with me. Or right here on this ship we will die together.
The New York Times says the best blockbuster of the year, dazzling, eye-filling, nerve-tingling, rips the heart.
You can't fight the whole British Empire with 600 people. It isn't possible.
How many Minutemen did you have at Concord the day they fired the shot heard around the world?
I don't know.
77.
Time magazine says a terrific show, a serious, expert, frightening, and inspiring thriller.
You heard what I said! Fight! Not beg! Fight!
Exodus. The Chicago Tribune says a tremendous picture. The Los Angeles Examiner says terrific impact and fury. The Dallas Herald says a superb candidate for the Hall of Screen Greats. The Boston Traveler says magnificent. The Miami Beach Sun says stands head and shoulders above all others. The Cleveland Plain Dealer says one of the great films of all time. Exodus.
There you have it. Hello, welcome to Neighborhood News. George Webb Investigates. Our movie of the night there. It's all happening, playing out before our eyes here.
Yeah, well, the story with the 600 on the boat, I think Mark knows this story too. They had the hostage ship, they were trying to get into Israel to help fight for Israel, and the British were keeping them out in the harbor. And they were trying to, it's also told in our story with Birth of a Nation with Neville Meyer, where they kept the people that were trying to come to Israel to help defend Israel in the early days, and they wouldn't let them in. So this is the story of this one ship that comes in and fights and helps save the country.
Anyway, yeah, Spo, it's all happening in Israel here tonight, as well as the streets of America. You wonder, did they do, the No Kings protests to distract everyone from Israel-Iran, or did they do Israel-Iran to distract everyone from No Kings, or are these things just coincidentally happening all at the, just?
I think they did No Kings. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Well, no, you go, George. You think they did No Kings to distract?
Well, I think they did distract from Tim Walz killing political enemies. This gal that they murdered along with her husband, they voted against Medicaid for immigrants. And they were the only ones in the Democratic Party just 2 days ago to vote for the Medicaid for the immigrants. It turns out this guy was hired by, Tim Walz. Tim Walz came out and said it was a political assassination earlier today. And we published the fact that, wait, Tim, did you know this guy worked for you when you said this is a political assassination? So basically you're saying your organization sponsored a political assassination. And then he's like, I didn't realize you worked for me or whatever. And then they wiped out his social media profile. We'll get back to Israel in a second, but then they wipe out this guy's social media profile. Why would you do that? Unless you're trying to hide the fact that he's your guy. And plus he was hired by the previous governor, who's very progressive. So I think Israel, I'm not saying Israel attacked Iran to hide Tim Walz's political murders,
Okay.
but I think this No Kings didn't have the impact that they wanted it to have when everybody found out that the person who supposedly killed this woman who voted not to give immigrants Medicaid, until they found out it was a guy who worked for Tim Walz. And that, I think that's what No Kings became. It's no DNC gunman is what this day has been renamed now. No, you shouldn't have DNC gunmen.
I wonder if they had a feeling, if they're, the algorithms were telling them before, them, I guess, the DNC or CrowdStrike or Palantir or, choose your master of the universe who reads the algos on the back end. But I wonder if the algos were telling them already that like No Kings was going to be a dud and they needed to juice this thing. Hey, we're not going to get the people tomorrow, guys. We got to juice this thing early and get this news cycle going tomorrow. But it
backfired because the guy ends up working for the murderer. Ends up working for
it. Just like Ryan Ruth was working for him in Ukraine, right? Just like Thomas Crooks was working for him at Clareton. And it's always their guys. It's just how fast it take us to find out that
I just tweeted out 6 different videos I did over 6 years ago as I was working on another summary explainer video about Keith Ellison. About how Keith Ellison was a BlackBerry carrier, how he worked with the Awans, how he pledged allegiance to Antifa, how he was one of the first Muslim congressmen, all this stuff. And we said it's going to be Tim Ellison. Tim Ellison is
Keith Ellison.
Keith Ellison, excuse me.
Yeah. And he's Minnesota. He's the he was the Attorney General of Minnesota. He was a congressperson of Minnesota, and then was he the United States Attorney General?
No, he was a congressman. He was a congressman from Minneapolis, then he became the Attorney General. So it's like, I just tweeted out 5 or 6 videos I did 6 years ago on Keith Ellison about Antifa, and now we have an Antifa murder, the next day.
That is what it appears to be. And really, Antifa is still the story of the day. It is No King's Day. We'll jump around to a few of the. We're getting a little lag here on our share screens.
Yeah, but doesn't this really kind of like demonstrate like to the extent of how corrupt Minnesota has become? That it's not this, agricultural, quiet Midwestern, maybe Scandinavian kind of a state, but it has it's got some pretty shady people in control of things. And maybe this is a way of also indicating that there might have to be some intervention in this state here, because you can't have this kind of kind of things going on with, lawmakers.
Yeah, well, this guy had an Africa background like Peter Strzok from Minnesota. He seemed like he's an assassin. It seems like he has an assassin type background, mercenary background. It's sort of like the I.B. Hale profile. Security. Worked in Congo or DRC, used to be Zaire. So it doesn't look good. He's one of these Red Lion Guardians. It just seems like an assassination squad that Walz had. And I just can't believe that they would send out the assassin on the same day as they're trying to get the upper hand on Trump, unless you really bet on the fact that he's not going to get caught. Then you could say, if it was just dead bodies in the morning and the guy went out the night before and shot him, it would be fine, because then no one would know who they were looking for. But the fact that he didn't kill the first 2 people, and then they were able to identify him as, hey, I know you from the Caucasus, and then the second cop answering to the first call ends up going to the other state senator and gets shots off at him. So I think this was a total botch. I think this was supposed to be a false flag. I think they sent the DNC hitmen out to kill everybody, and they wanted to find dead bodies in the morning. And what they got instead was something that boomerang back on Tim Walz.
Well,
maybe this was intended to be like a MAGA hit. They were going to have be able to find some right wing extremist to hang it on.
Right. I think so. I think that was the idea.
Make this guy out like he's a right-wing extremist.
And they might have even had a whole, like, just like a crooks kind of person who is, maybe they're, real, or they're just, they're an assumed identity or something. But,
I think they could have introduced a patsy along the way somewhere. If the two things went wrong, he didn't kill the first two people. And the second thing is he had a cop have a shootout with him at the second place. So he's going to get ID'd. The cop's going to get the license plate number. The cop's going to get an ID from the first two people that he tried to kill. So this thing just blew up in their face. And, I guess we can pivot to Israel at some point, but I just think I took the liberty of creating the Chicago massacre wall here, which also doubles as a caucus room for the DNC. When it's not being used for mass murders, it's also a caucus room.
Well, he supposedly came to the crime scenes in a police car. So, the police are going to be looking for their car.
And there's LoJack on police cars. You always know where police cars are. That's the other thing. My sister used to, with her husband, clean the police cars and get them oil changes and everything as volunteers. There's LoJack exactly where the cars are at all times. So how that this could be, this is just this, and where's the social media, right? Where's the car, the camera? How about the car cam? How about the body camera of the police officers? Where is this information? Aren't we interested in, if Tim Waltz is saying this is such a horrible murder, why isn't he pushing for the investigation now?
So really diving into this Vance Bolter will be a very fascinating dive here in the next couple days. There is obviously a lot to distract us here in the news cycle, so we'll see where we continue with it. But I mean, is he? Some will say, no doubt, that he's like an MK Ultra, right? That somebody called and said, pick up the Red Queen, Vance. Right, or is it the Red Queen or the Queen of Diamonds? Right, there's that whole, is he a Sirhan, or is he just a straight up, trained killer? And there is a team of trained killers out here who do the dirty work when they are called upon. That is what it is appearing here. It does not appear that he is just some guy who is left or right. He's not upset about any votes per se. He's an operative who's operating. It's just, how is he triggered, of his own volition or whatever? I would,
So what happened? Didn't they just give Jack Ruby a phone call? And it's been just that,
he's a Jack Ruby type. There you go. Right.
Yeah, he is a Jack Ruby type. Well, the other thing is, there's not that many people that walk around with cowboy hats in Minnesota. I could see Colorado, I could see Wyoming, I could see Montana, maybe Texas, but not that many walking around Minnesota in June. I could see maybe January, you're going out to your horse or whatever. But the fact that they had pictures of him today after the murder walking around with his cowboy hat, to me, says that he's not trying to get away.
Yeah, 10 yards would have been more appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, plus they're showing these old pictures of when he was 40. Why would they be doing that when the guy's 57? This is the Crooks thing where they were showing the 12-year-old pictures of Crooks when Crooks was obviously, 18, 19 years old, so, that taller picture of Crooks that we didn't see for how many weeks later? It was, like 8 to 10 weeks later, we finally saw a picture of Crooks at the right age, him walking. And somebody else had to find that. The police didn't even find him walking around all the Trump vendors. And that fact he was there an hour early. So this stinks really bad. And if Tim Walsh is really so interested in the murder, he should be the one leading the investigation. So should Keith Ellison.
So he worked for the Workforce Development Board, which is like, if you say it in a Chicago mob voice, Yeah, we're the workforce development board. I mean,
These are the
your
guys who go around.
workforce is going to get burned down if you don't give Tim Walz, his whatever
Right.
Tim
If you
Walz
don't pay
gets.
protection, if you don't pay your SEIU dues, which are up this year for Tim Walz, your place is going to get burned down. That's workforce protection. So this is
development. Yeah,
we just were in there. It's so funny. We just went to talking about Keith Ellison and Rahm Emanuel, the Chicago mob, and we were down there at Dealey Plaza. We were down there with the trebuchet, and that's where all the people were today. It took the whole story, which was going to be no kings with Trump, and made it into Tim Walz's Al Capone murderers.
Here they are, yeah, the Minnesota Governor's Workforce Development Board, no doubt a hardworking team and everything. But I think looking at the No Kings, I guess we'll switch to No Kings. We'll probably only do about an hour tonight, so we'll try to hit 20 minutes. There's such a perfect news cycle of Minnesota murders, Israel, Iran, and No Kings protests that we can try to do a bop bop bop, right? But looking at the No Kings and what's really going on here, and it seems to me that it's a invitation for Antifa, that it's not bullshit, but it's Fisher Price, I don't know, I can't grab the term I'm looking for, but it's AstroTurf. I think that's the term I'm looking for, is AstroTurf. It's really like an AstroTurf kind of, it's kind of fake. It's kind of, drum it up. We do what we can here to, make it look good, but there's not a lot of meat behind it. And it's really an open invitation to Antifa trying to, set up a event or a possible event for Antifa to step in, because Antifa is of course not involved and not the organizers, and the organizers aren't Antifa, et cetera, et cetera. But we know on the back end from all your great citizen journalism over the years that there is a thread between Antifa and some state-sponsored entity, right? Is it in the DHS? Is it in the where is the CIA, DNC, DHS? I mean, it's the BlackBerry carriers, but they are fomenting. I shouldn't say fomenting. They are working with Antifa, and most of the Antifa members don't work with the state-sponsored individual, right? And it's probably the same kind of relationship as an FBI informant relationship. That's why, we also do so much work on the FBI informants, because it's probably something that grew out of an FBI informant relationship specifically, or is at least mirroring the same, modus operandi of a FBI informant, agent and informant relationship, you might say. But we know that's what's going on. Crooks and Urich going to Clairton, paying, $1 per visit, paid for by the DHS guy, is probably the most glaring example in our most recent research and the things that have happened of like, whoa, these Antifa guys have somebody behind them, and most of them are, organic, real radical leftists. I do really believe that. I think that there are a lot of true believers in Antifa. I think most of the black bloc guys on the street, at the LA riots tonight are actually just true believer, radical leftist, radical socialist dudes who want to overturn the government. But there is that thread there. And I think that's where the juice is, because I don't think any of this happens without the state sponsorship making it possible. And that's where your work comes in. A lot of people are covering Antifa here, Antifa there, but it's really who lights their fire. And do you see any of that? I guess, have we seen any of that today, or do you have any comments in that area? Just
I'll let Mark go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at this as with USAID, kind of being shut down. That was like a major revenue stream for a lot of this activity. And for these leftists to continue their revolution, they were going to have to, dig back into these mega donors. Okay. To, this money's not here, so you're going to have to help us in other ways. And maybe drawing this out was a way to then watch because it seems like we're seeing posts where people show up. Well, why did the Democrats buy all of these bricks and and have them delivered? And you're seeing and then again, and also the media, the alt-right media here, the new citizen journalists. I think we diffuse this, because we got the public who to watch for things, and they're not able to pull it off, with and have their Kent State moment.
I definitely agree that they didn't have their moment of some like right wing beating some leftists. That video didn't happen here. I think there is some stuff going on in Los Angeles now. So down by looks like downtown there right now. But
you're getting a little kooky.
But
some other cities probably could go off tonight. It's still an ongoing situation. Yeah.
Yeah. They still haven't really, kind of started the fires or anything like that, or gone Chicago 1968, DNC convention yet. So, but I think Mark's right. I think we get ahead of so many of these things that they're diffused. Israel certainly took a lot of wind out of this too. I think the shocking speed at which Israel took out all the missile defense of Iran, and these guys were just talking 2 days ago about destroying Iran, destroying Israel through a missile attack, and they're all dead, a day later, and all their missile defense is dead, and their air force is hiding, and their gasoline reservoirs are exploding, and their uranium enrichment plants are on fire, and it's just the whole thing is in 2 days has been this complete collapse, this complete victory for Israel. This group that's protesting Trump today is also protesting sort of Israel, and they're pro-Palestinian, and this is a big victory day for Israel. So it's kind of like, and Trump is also having the big parade today saying he's a tough guy, so I think there was a lot of mixed messages today. I think it would have been better to pick a different day rather than try to go up against Trump today, because there was a lot of counter protesters today, a lot of Trump people counter protesting with the American flags today. So I think this didn't come off today like they wanted it to.
So my feeling is that they're going to have to, if their strategy is probably going to change, where they're going to have to do something stealth and by surprise, and not broadcast, that we're going to have these marches. They're going to be spontaneous when they're not expected, so they can get a greater reaction, or, possible reaction because of the surprise attack.
I think the red Ferrari might be coming back out tonight somewhere in America, that like, it's just, we might have you muted there, George. I don't know, but it's like, it's almost, give it as much time as we can, Is any cop going to shoot a black guy? Still, it's midnight. No, all 1,800 locations. No cop has shot a black guy yet. Okay. Yeah. Keep the red Ferrari out. Tell, Flood or whoever it's going to be, pull around the corner, bang, bang, here or there, get CNN over here, or get Jaden X out, or, this time it'll be that other guy that we'll look him up here in a second, that BG on the scene. He's the one, right? It's like,
can you imagine how this went off today, where they said Tim Walsh was going to say, this is a horrible day in America. They've done political assassination. This is the thing we're protesting against Donald Trump today. And then somebody whispered to him and said, hey, Tim, the guy who killed everybody works for you. What? Yeah, he works for you. So there's a 800-man manhunt for him right now. Oh, that doesn't make me look good at all. You know what? Let's not talk about this story anymore. You want to talk about blowback. What a way for this thing to blow up. And I think as bad as the No Kings was today, and as weak and ineffectual as it was, that's how strong the Israeli attack was in taking. No planes lost, no missiles stopped, 0% intercept. Most of it, Yeah, Iran
Iran
is
intercepted none of them.
none.
Yeah,
Mm-mm,
that makes
none.
sense. Yeah, fair enough.
And then your missile defense is gone. Your rocket launchers, most of them were destroyed on the ground. Of the 150 missiles that did get back to Israel, only 5 or 6 of them hit their targets. Most of them ended up short. And now everybody's on the run, right? They blew up the airport. They destroyed the airport. They destroyed all the fuel depots. So now you can't run by, escape by car. So now you're on foot. Your scooter, for Khomeini, if he's going to try to get away on scooter, it's only going to have a charge for so long. People will recognize Khomeini trying to get away on the scooter.
I wonder
So
if they have those there. Yeah. Huh?
I'm just kind of being funny with
I
Khomeini and the
know.
scooter, but I'm just saying that you're running out of all the things that you need to get out.
Mhm.
And here's where I say, the drone, the drone guy, the next, he's the next, I don't know, he's the next Harry, I guess, as far as royalty is concerned. This Brad Sherman, a drone guy who's married.
Oh, marrying the Shah. Yeah.
The granddaughter of the Shah.
Yeah, not the Shah, marrying the granddaughter's. Yeah, the granddaughter.
And he looks like he's out of central casting. He looks like it's Dr. Zhivago. They're going to bring these two in. Reza is about my age, the son of the Shah, and AIPAC has already announced him as being the guy. Reza Pahlavi has already said, people of Iran, rise up. You're the number one democracy. When the Shah was overthrown, you were the number one democracy in the Middle East. It was an advanced economy. Now's the time to rise up. So, yeah. So this is Di and not Charles, but it's kind of like Di and I don't know. I'm trying to think of somebody who's had
Princess Diana. You're saying Princess Diana?
Yeah, Princess Diana, and not Charles, but somebody who's is equally photogenic as Diana in this couple. And they're gonna, I predict, a horse-drawn carriage like Lady Di and Charles had in a command performance wedding. I'm not saying that they're going to bring back the monarchy, but I think they're going to bring back them in name only figurehead monarchy, just for the people to have some kind of, after they've been defeated in war, you want to have something for them to be proud of. And I think this is where we're going.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of deal making going on. I feel like Trump is just loving being, 47 right now vis-a-vis the Middle East deal making, in terms of just all the, because it's the art of the deal, of course. And like, certainly what we're seeing with Iran and Israel, as much as the United States is trying to say that it doesn't know or it's not involved or whatever. I mean, certainly none of us are impressed by the whole, they were 1 week away from developing 9 nuclear weapons. It's like, all right, we've been hearing that for years. We know that's just the cover story, but Trump being in Saudi Arabia is, to me, the foundation of what's going on here. That he got some guarantees. He got some guarantees from MBS and the princes that we've got the Middle East, covered here, Mr. Trump. You can let your finger off, or you can put your finger on. You can let Netanyahu, have his leash or whatever it's going to be. We'll keep this thing here contained in these areas. I feel like there was
a pipeline, and it's going to be a pipeline that right now, to go from the Persian Gulf all the way to Europe through Israel, you only have to go through one country, and that's Saudi Arabia. So it's a done deal. The Gulf of Hormuz, the Bandar Abbas is being bombed today. All the Navy is being bombed in the port. They said they were going to the Iranian Navy was going to try to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. They're not even going to get out of port. It's going to be destroyed in a Pearl Harbor, set of hulks all on Battleship Row there. So, but the Strait of Hormuz becomes, irrelevant if there's a Trans-Arabian pipeline through Israel and Saudi Arabia. So I wrote about this as Braverman prophecy. There's Reza Shah. I think he's going to be the next. I think he'll be the interim president until there's elections. I think it'll be only a 3-month, governorship until free elections. But that's what I think is coming. I don't. When I said this 2 days ago, everybody said, "Are you kidding me? Iran is the strongest army in all of the Middle East. Israel is going to be wiped off the face of the earth." And now here we are 2 days later, and everyone's running for the hills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think definitely there was deals made, or at least plans set in place prior to this on the Saudi Arabia trip that laid the groundwork for this. And I think Trump doesn't need to know, doesn't want to know. It's like, don't tell me.
Right.
Yeah, don't tell me the details. I'm here. I shook MBS's hand. We did the thing. They gave me a soccer ball or whatever. I don't think he got a soccer ball on this trip. It was a previous trip or something. But, he got the gifts and we did the thing. And now you guys are going to do this. And the chips may fall like this. It may fall like that. But you're not going to turn in, you're not going to make this a Ukraine Russia for me. And that's why I don't know. I'm still not all that alarmed by it. I think it's still a kabuki. I think it's still 90% kabuki, and there is some risk. And the whole thing, Turning Point USA has been asking everyone and scaring me and others about what the sleeper cells, that there's sleeper cells here in America, which I guess that's a whole nother topic. Maybe they are here, but I don't know that this is the big one or anything. I think this is still just made for TV war. So I don't know. That's where I stand on that, but it's mostly kabuki, but some risk, Mark, and no games is mostly kabuki too. So
Mark, what's your take on that?
I think the end game here is regime change in Iran. You get the mullahs out, and hopefully let Persians run their country again. But on the other side too, this could be an attempt to create regime change in Israel as well.
Wouldn't that be something? Trump's trying to get that would be Trumpian out of this, wouldn't it?
Because I'm seeing, okay, so you defeated Iran, or this victory with Iran. Well, now what are the Turks going to do? NATO Turks, because wasn't CENTCOM kind of maybe involved a little bit in this this latest incursion from Israel over to Iran?
Mm-hmm.
But there's again this desire maybe to recoalesce the Ottoman Empire. That is just like, well, ultimately, the Turks are going to come in my opinion.
Yeah, I think regime change is where we're going here. It's not just to knock out the ability to make a bomb. And I think we're definitely looking at regime change. And we'll see over the next couple of days. If you see, we have people right now, Mossad agents supposedly on the street in Tehran, flying drones into apartments of generals and blowing them up. This is like a kid flying a kite, underneath the transom of the building. We're not talking about long range missions anymore. We have, people on the ground in Tehran. So I think that is very telling. And I think Mark is hitting on the right word. If you appeal to the Persian Empire and say that whole mullah thing, going back to the 12th century, that wasn't you. That wasn't you, Iranian people. You are the great Persian Empire. And we're going to put you back to your rightful place in the Middle East as sort of on the throne of the Middle East. That's the way to win this thing. And the way to really win it is put in Pahlavi for a 3-month interim till elections. And is this a live shot here, Aaron?
I think this was earlier
might have been last night.
No, this is a couple hours ago, 2 hours ago. So okay. Just missiles coming in. I'll get us back to the live cam. We had a Tel Aviv live cam actually going on too.
I'm just concerned, with NATO, through Turkey, trying to get themselves involved over here like they're involved in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Mark's right. You can't go. It's got to be quick. It's got to be surgical. It can't be forever. It can't have civilian targets. Because as soon as you go over that line, that you cross the military to civilian line, and you stop doing decapitation, you stop doing hitting military targets. If you start trying to do a Gaza in Iran, I do agree with Mark. You lose Turkey, and you also bring the Russians in potentially.
Yes.
And that you don't want that. So you want to contain this thing, quick regime change, have quick elections, and then move on and have the royal wedding, have the royal carriage. You sort of got a Jack Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy couple, bring them down through the middle of the streets, and you're done.
Oh, I get it now with them. Now I see where the Shah and the Sherman come in. You need them. That's what Golanowski was supposed to be, right? Wasn't Golanowski? Who was the last of the Romanovs?
Golanowski was the last of the Romanovs.
Yeah, he was. You needed a hot girl for him, I guess. I don't know, but
it's Esther in
I
reverse.
see. That's what it's supposed to be here. That's where
But Jack Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy, and then they have their Persian Empire back, and then the best thing that Israel could do is back off, right? And like Mark said, put the Persian Empire back together, give them security, back off, and let them elect their leaders. As long as you got a Mossad guy in there who has the heir apparent, you're going to get the pipeline. All you want's the oil, and you want the rare metals, and you want the gas, right? So you don't need him to be involved in any of the other domestic politics of Iran.
It's Esther in reverse.
from the Bible,
yeah.
because
Now wait, Esther was turned to stone, or wait, that was Ruth. I can't remember which. I get them confused. Oh,
that's the one that's Haman, the guy they were going to kill all the Jews.
Oh, Esther said, "I'm a Jew," right? Didn't Esther say, "I'm a Jew," and so kill me too? Wasn't that Esther? Or
right?
Yeah.
So this guy Sherman, now he's got a drone company. Who doesn't have a drone company? I mean, Aaron, I guess we've struck out on drone companies across our endeavors so far, but we'll try again here soon enough with the drone companies. But this is him. This is like not this isn't weapons drones with this isn't a Palmer Luckey Anduril guy.
No.
This is your groceries.
Well, this medical delivery is where it makes sense. The groceries are delivering shirts with Amazon failed. UPS has got a deal with Matternet, but there's other ways to get you the stuff. There's trucks. There's the guys on the bicycles with DoorDash. There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of highways, but in Ghana, where you don't have very good roads and it's mountainous and you're in jungle, this straight line of flight, or Central America or South America in mountainous areas, now it starts to really make sense for medical delivery. And I think he's failing. The Jack Kennedy guy, Brad Sherman, is sort of failing right now with Matternet because he's not focusing on this medical market. The company that seems to be doing the best is the one in Ghana, which is Zipline. And Ghana is one of the more advanced countries, not quite as advanced as South Africa, but ex-British colony, and
they're above average for Africa. They're definitely above average for sure. But here's Zipline.
Yeah, but if you look at they're really pushing on this, deliver things to your backyard and so forth, because they want it to be a wider market. But my point is that if you have malaria and you're going to die in Africa, I've known people who've gotten bitten and have, going to die, and you don't get the antidote, and the doctor doesn't get the antidote, and you might have to schedule a plane to get the antidote, and the plane doesn't come anywhere. There's no runway anywhere near where you are, and no runway from where they're taking off from, and it's 18 hours to get you the antidote. This is the solution.
Rainy season too. Half the year is rainy season.
Rainy season.
I mean, there's a lot of factors.
So I'm really looking to when the Kennedy kid, when Brad Sherman gets put on the throne, or at least as the first prince in waiting, he remembers us to do medical delivery in Africa as we build out the network in Africa. We'll probably build out in other continents as well, but that's what he's doing. And he's the perfect kind of guy, because he's the guy who didn't make it. He's the Elon Musk who didn't make any money. He's losing money, right? And now just step into a royal role in Iran, and Bob's your uncle.
Somebody must have hooked them up, though. I mean, I don't think they met on a dating app, so he's got to have
CIA. I can't remember the guy's name.
He's CIA, of course. Another CIA marriage, but hopefully he's, at least nice CIA.
Was there
right?
a dowry?
I think the dowry was one of the uranium enrichment plants, I'm pretty sure.
The secret dowry, yes, multiple secret dowry assets on this one. I mean, entire nation. I mean, hey, we're going to give you Iran.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You two are going to get married. We're going to attack Iran 48 hours later, and we will be on a trajectory where the two of, she's going to march back in. She's 31. She's not getting any younger. She's going to march back in, and, everyone will rejoice as we, murder and just as we drone kill or, laser target each of their military assets. And then she will march in, and you'll be right there with her.
Remember that coin you had?
It'll be amazing.
The coin you had with the map on it?
Well, remember Wesley Clark telling us about the 7 nations. Remember about the axis of evil, right? I mean,
my question is, like, does this marriage play into that map?
Yes, I think so. I think it's beyond that map, because if you remember, the coin for the Greater Israel went from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is only to Iraq. It's only halfway to Iraq. This is all the way to Afghanistan and Pakistan, right? This is another country beyond the coin, the Greater Israel coin. But it's going to happen. And again, if they focus in on what Mark Rich focused in on, was the secret pipeline. They were buying the sanctioned Iranian oil and then selling it. And you connect this into the East Med pipeline, and now they're partners. The Iran-Iranian Israeli partnership is how you get peace in the Middle East, is you put them in a partnership together.
So the blob in the coin is allegedly Greater Israel.
People are talking about how the Iditarod was about sled doggers getting medicine to people from one end of Alaska to the other, 400 miles through the snow. And I think Zipline uses a bigger plane. I wish they would show Zipline in Ghana, because Zipline isn't one of these little quadcopter that goes 3 or 4 miles. This could get all the way out to the jungle where you were.
Mm-hmm.
If you see the size of them, they're pretty big planes. They're still drones. They're not, James Jameson MQ-9 Reapers, but this is Ghana here?
I don't think so, but I will. No, that's
Greater this Israel. Is Greater Israel here.
That's Greater here. I'll do a real fast. That blob in the picture would go with, the blob on the coin theoretically. But here, I think I also have some drones in Ghana, Zipline medical drone delivery in Ghana. That is a pretty big plane. I mean, you could put a small person on that thing, maybe, 100-pound person could maybe.
Car parts, you know how cars are and so forth there, where the whole car is down because it doesn't have one part. So this is big enough to get you a car part, like a carburetor or a starter or something, for 58 Chevy or whatever they're trying. I'm not sure what the payload is. I think it's like 20 pounds. It's not like the 5 pounds at Matternet. So, we'll be talking to all of them. We'll talk to all of them.
We'll have to get you guys over there in the wintertime. Get the Ghana trip back on. The trolls love to, insult us that we don't go to Ghana all the time, which is like, there was 5 years of coronavirus. I got 4 children. I mean, but Mark's going to get back there. We'll get you guys over there in the wintertime. You guys can check this out.
These drones could easily take out like those electric windmills and stuff.
Yeah,
sure, absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. But there they are. So that's it. Now I understand this Sherman guy and where this marriage comes in.
Yeah.
This is no doubt not a marriage maybe as arranged as Huma
Yes.
Abedin and who's Soros, Alex Soros.
Yeah,
That
okay,
marriage,
yeah, but what's
that
his
marriage
name?
is like, oh, come on, guys, you know, come on, CIA.
What's his
You're-
real name? What's his real name?
Who?
Sherman. What's his real name?
Oh, you know what's his real name?
Well, no, I don't.
Because it's like the Dylans were not, you know, they all have like different names, but you know, he probably even could be a Kolomoisky. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I see
for
what you mean.
example, you know, but I was
I
taking his Hebrew name.
Exactly. There's a lot of Mossad in this story. I mean, they want to do the pipeline deal, Trans-Arabian pipeline. This is going to happen. Like Mark said, it's not just the Persians that are in Iran, it's the Persian exiles, right? There's so many millions of people, 92 million people, but there's so many Persian exiles, and they'll bring money back into the country. They'll bring tourism back into the country. So that's where, you know, people are. And if you're a nuclear scientist, you got two choices. One, you can enrich up to 20% and be rich. The other one, you can enrich up to 90% and be dead. So the nuclear scientists are going to start moving over and saying, hey, they may split Iran like they split Libya, if you remember, for a while, and then have a temporary transition council and then take over the other half of Iran. But their regime change is where we're going here.
The other thing that I've heard through other journalist sources is this is a play for the Persian gold.
The Persian gold.
Just like, you know, Gaddafi, you know, it was going for Libya's gold.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much they have. So I guess I'm going to have to do some research before our next show.
This is like the Nazi gold. Like this is a hoard of gold being held by the mullahs or the
probably belongs to this royal family, or you know, the dynasties, just like, you know, a lot of the czars gold was hidden in the Orthodox churches, in the walls and the basements and wherever else, you know. So, but you know, again, I just heard it. I'm not saying that I know this, but I could see it because I've heard more about getting control of his gold reserves and stopping him from creating that gold real. You know, the bankers do not want gold money, and they do want it in the Middle East.
Interesting.
Right.
One question. We got about 5-10 minutes here. I'll just throw one question in. I'm going to throw in the live cam of Tel Aviv here. See if maybe we get a shot of a missile or an intercept or anything. But so the Iron Dome has been good, not great, you might say, or maybe you're saying great. I don't know. It sounded like you thought it was doing pretty great. The Iron Dome.
It's doing pretty well. I think the Iron Dome's doing pretty well. You're talking about hitting a ballistic missile. You know, that's hard.
Yeah, I know. People were like talking about like where Israel had the launchers for the Iron Dome, and he was like, "Oh, they got them amongst civilians." No. And it's like, well, these are defensive, guys. It's geometry. You know, it's like you're arguing with geometry here. Like these missiles that Israel are shooting are to defend against an incoming. And so they can't just put it anywhere. You know, the geometrical necessity of knocking the missile coming at them kind of requires that you put this here, there, or wherever. I don't know the geometry, but it's not like you have a choice. You got to have them around if you're going to hit the thing with your Iron Dome, because it's not really a dome. It's coming from the ground. Even, you know, and that's almost, you know, like these missiles, it's really, I don't know what you call it, right? But like they're shooting missiles that are ground based.
Yeah, intercept.
To hit the thing in the air. So
anti-missile systems. And you know, Aaron, we don't have the responsibility of boiling the ocean here. We can't take every troll and bring them along, you know. So if they don't know what an anti-missile system is, it's not our job to help. But the other thing that you can't forget about is Elbit, ELBIT. They're the ones who had this secret drone base in. We said Elbit has left the building this morning. I did a show. Elbit's left the building. I did a Substack. Elbit's left the building. Elbit has this offensive drone where there's no orders. You just give the drone a picture of what the launchers look like, and then it seeks it out from all of the satellite imagery, and then, you know, goes and attacks. And Elbit also makes the Iron Beam, and Iron Beam uses the laser, and they've got taking out drones now with the Iron Beam down to $5 a target. So it used to be you shot a missile at Israel and it cost you $10,000 or more to knock it out. Now it's $5 with Elbit's Iron Beam. So yeah, this is
the need it because they got a lot of incoming.
This reminds me of the boxes of Acme products that Wile E. Coyote would use on the Roadrunner.
Acme, and the Roadrunner always
he loved this stuff.
Yeah, he would always dream something up, and it would always backfire, and it always would follow him and stop in the air, and he would always go over the cliff, and he would pause out in the middle of the space for about 3 seconds, and
I can imagine they would just give DARPA scientists, they
might have inspired all of
joints,
this.
a box of joints, and a box of Wile E. Coyote cartoons. It's like, here, guys, come up with something.
Chuck Jones,
here, come up with some inventions for us, guys. Who knows what they come up with, but I don't know. I mean, so okay, fair enough. Yeah, this is Elbit Systems, very interesting. Certainly, we've covered a bunch of drone companies here tonight. It is drone world that we're living in, whether we like it or
this
not.
is the thing. Is Sherman, like Mark said, is Matternet really a front company for some kind of black ops? For Mossad working behind enemy lines, under the civilian humanitarian cover. No one. I've never seen. You're the super Jew, Aaron. I've never seen a Jewish guy have a dumber idea about a business model. Right. Most, we're going to deliver.
Yeah.
We're going to deliver coffee. We're going to deliver shirts through drones. It's going to come down in the yard. It's going to kill the dog. It's going to kill the cat. It's going to kill the kid. All this liability. There's plus it gets in the flight paths, the restricted airspace. So it's just a mess, for developed areas. It's an obvious business case for the Ghana type situation, or Panama, or someplace that's mountainous and hilly with bad roads and going around and around a mountain. So I think Sherman, his whole role in life, like Mark said, is to get something in Iran, either the pipeline deal or the gold or both, or all the rare earth metal. He is on a mission to Iran. He's not on a mission to fly people their shirts for Matternet.
Last thing I think I can say about him here is this: I see a lot of Jared Kushner in him.
A lot of Jared Kushner.
And this. I see a lot of Jared Kushner in this and that.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's dude Oconus lures.
Well, the money's going to stay in the same pool. The money's not going to circulate outside of certain channels.
Yeah.
So, so the money controls who's.
Well, just, Epstein had Oconus lures, and, the females get a lot of attention, but there were male Oconus lures, and they lure.
Yeah.
And, it's like, all right, Sherman, you got one, good job.
He was sent in and said, get that pipeline done. However, whatever you need to do.
That's what's happening there. But, all right. So my last question about Israel too now, or just, comment is, so the Iron Dome is working. It's doing its thing like it's supposed to, or whatever, but they have been keen to mention that there are still fragments. They hit the missile and the missile may not detonate or whatever, but there are fragments that fall. So, the missile and its contents, the physical makeup of the missile, is falling still on the environs of Tel Aviv, which makes me think like, well, man, then isn't bios a much bigger concern than nukes? Like, can't they just stuff some bio? Can't they stuff some anthrax in one of those things, send it over? And it's like, well, if the Iron Dome hits it, the anthrax falls from the sky. And if the Iron Dome doesn't, then the anthrax gets into the city.
I think if they're caught doing that, the reprisal, that opens the gate for a full-on, shock and awe reprisal. So I think that they're being very careful not to do that.
But that capability is right there. If anybody wants to get real, that capability is right there.
Go back to Werner von Braun. That's what he was talking about with London. He said, "Hey, I don't want to have to hit a dime in London, for a ballistic missile. Why don't we just put anthrax in it and we'll just dust London?" So this is an old idea, 80-year-old idea. We'll see.
Sarin gas in the Japanese subway.
Yeah.
That's just what makes me think that like this whole thing's just such BS. And Netanyahu with his whole little like, we have uncovered that the Iranians have close to 9 bombs, and it's like anthrax. What are you talking about? 9 bombs, like
Herman Cain 999.
Yeah, I mean, like, so it's just where are we? That's what makes this is mostly kabuki, mostly a school play, because I mean, they want to get real. Like, I'm sure the Iranians could get their hands on some anthrax. Everybody can get anthrax, right? I mean, that's like, and
well, I think also they want to advertise the Golden Dome, or the Iron Dome, so they could Raphael can sell the Golden Dome to Hegseth, and they'll buy it in America. And they're trying with No Kings to gen up how you stop a land-based Gladio movement with AK-47s with a Golden Dome still is beyond my imagination. I can't think like that. But Trump wants to put 100 billion, 150 billion in to do Golden Dome. So I agree with the commenter. It may be just strategy attention in order to sell weapons.
I think it might be being used as a justification for Trump to pull us out of NATO and just completely withdraw from the whole Middle East and Western Europe landscape, because they're the ones picking these fights and expecting us to backstop them. And we've got enough problems in this hemisphere to be worrying about what's going on over there. So when this stuff gets too crazy, I mean, Trump can and the people would be behind him. We're leaving NATO. We can't deal with this, especially if he can show that NATO may have been involved with the Israelis in this attack on Iran. So
we'll do a few comments here and be on our way.
Okay.
George has been cranking lately. He got his YouTube channel back. I'm sure everybody here knows that. If there is anybody in the room who does not know that, as we, piddle along on our little YouTube channel here, we're really, this is all kind of just preseason for us still. We're just gearing towards August, hoping to get a lot of people out here in August, have a big charrette to help neighborhood news and the research community, just stake a few more flags in the ground, get a lot more foundation and stability. So right now we're just still trying to bounce the ball. But George got his YouTube channel back, which was probably the biggest news of the week. We talked about it on our show on Wednesday, and then magically it reappeared there Wednesday night, Thursday morning. So pretty crazy, awesome stuff. George has been cranking. He did 3 hours yesterday, might do another 3 hours today. Maybe I'll start jumping in doing graphics eventually. Who knows? I don't know where this will go, but it's back, everybody. Let's get him over to the 100,000 mark. To be honest, I think there is something still weird, because when it came back, it was at 98.9, and it's been back for 3 or 4 days and it's still at 98.9.
Yeah.
They just don't want to send you the award, I guess. I don't know.
No, they don't want they probably raised the super chat up to 100,000. And I was at 110,000 5 years ago when they whacked it 6 years ago. So, whatever,
You know what folks could look forward to here? Maybe one day in the studio, I will just play a bunch of these back into the record here on this channel. Just make a nice big live stream of all these shorter clips, kind of just get them back into the record, get a show out there that can condense them, because now we know how precious they are and how easily they can be lost. Even though there's only 800 of the 4,000, it is very important to back this stuff up. Even I know you have it backed up, kind of, but I mean, not as really. It can always be more. It was
a total surprise when 6 years ago when they blew it up.
Right.
So I'm glad to have something back. Just because if I'm already streaming to Twitter, then now I got a second channel with YouTube. It just going forward, at least, I'm going to try to do as many longer live streams now to kind of summarize all the stuff so people don't have to go back in time too much, but it's all there for the receipts. So it's really,
well, really, to dive into it a little, as a guy, I guess I've watched a lot of George Webb on your various platforms over the years, right? And the engagement on that YouTube channel has not been matched and can't be matched. And immediately upon return, it immediately returned. It's really incredible. Like you've got 1,500, 2,000 people on the Twitter live chat, but it's just not a live chat feature that a lot of people are comfortable using for whatever reason, and they don't use it. And meanwhile, you still, you're not at 1,000 live on YouTube like you are. Twitter has the people, and it's like, what's wrong with these Twitter people that they're just sitting on their hands and they don't want to use their thumbs? But on YouTube, it's like, man, look at this live chat. You can't keep up. I mean, the live chat is just like
20-1. 20 to 1.
God. And it's amazing, and it's really helped the research community, and I mean, at some point it's drinking from a fire hose. I'm sure you're kind of overwhelmed. You're just like, oh my God.
And that's why I just try to get it up there, and I'll just pick out a few keywords if it's going real fast. And I'll just say, yeah, I did a show on that, just go on to the next one. But hopefully, I want it to go fast.
No, you don't want to. That's the thing. I feel like we all kind of should have a charrette just to like reevaluate the landscape of where our research community is at now that we've got this thing back. Cause it's like, all these people that were coming back and, you knew they were always there. It's not like they stopped following, but they stopped live chatting. They just didn't want to use the Twitter live chat feature, which I mean, I don't know, it's fine. It is what it is, but the YouTube can't be beat, and the community's there and they love it. And it's great to see. So folks should definitely get in on that. I'll do a few comments here though. Harry the Greek, inside info. Absolutely. We got a show. Greg is the correspondent working for Harry at Naked Truth now. So Greg's coming by here doing a show every now and then to give us the latest from Harry. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, Harry the Greek, always check in on Harry the Greek. You did a little YouTube or Twitter video about him yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
I did one about Dason as well on their stories. He called me and said, hey, the Trump lawsuits 2017 is why you got your channel back. The new CEO came in and just wanted to clear the books, and
that's right. That's what's
so yeah, that was the story. So yeah, this story about the Ayatollah in Paris when they brought him in as a British agent is very true. He was a plant from the very beginning with British intel, and they were going to do a secret deal, like Mark mentioned, with the Imperial Oil Company, BP. And we've lived with that for 50 years. And I think it's time. I agree with Mark also. It's not Brad Sherman. It's, Brad Raphael. And he's been sent in specifically to marry that girl and get half of the loot. I mean, that's the job he's got. And then he's doing a good job.
Let's see. Tesla's death wall. Shah left lots of assets, including massive modern art collection that the mullahs, quote unquote, don't get. Interesting.
Yeah, that's Amaryllis Fox again. Here we go.
It is always there, right? No kings, no emotional content for the average American. Absolutely, yep. Hey, Thermobstacle, thanks for being here. Yes, I'm trying to get a chicken dome for the farm. Yeah, easier to get it from the top. The Golden Dome is certainly, right there, ready to be unleashed. SecDef described.
What would the chicken dome take out? Raccoons on her farm? I guess it would be raccoons.
The hawks. You get hawks and owls.
Hawks, yeah.
Hawks, owls are the worst, actually. I mean, the owls.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're the king of the jungle, in a sense, out there. The owls are very intimidating. But the Iditarod sled race. So yeah, I think we'll leave it right there. I think we might have a travel day on Wednesday this week, so might do a Thursday or something, right? Something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. You and I'll communicate about it. It is what it is. But August, folks, if folks want to come to the big charrette in August, I don't know if you've got any charrettes on your calendar.
No, I think August makes the most sense.
Second half of August out here in Michigan. Check in with me and I have a place for you to stay. No King's evidence of how misled they really are. Yeah, led by the DNC, CIA, Fourth Psych Ops, whoever it is.
Stay away from the Peter Strzok mercenary, Murder Inc. That Tim Waltz hires.
Absolutely.
That's the bad news today. Yeah.
Mark, any closing remarks? I'm going to close us out here with your video from the Shah, or about the Shah. But yeah, what do you think, Mark?
I was just going to say that with this resource of your older videos, because you could do some "I told you so" kind of updates with these, curate them, and said, "We told you this was going to happen. See, this day I was on, and we talked about this." And
I put one out today. I was in front of the Capitol and talking about Isfahan and how the enrichment facilities had to be hit in Isfahan, and of course that was the big Israeli target 6 years later. So yeah, it is fun to go, "Hey, I told you so." So
I guess we'll do that one even, huh? We'll play that one on the way out. Is Iran Israel's Louisiana Purchase? Or no, that's a different one here. I'll find it here in a minute. But yeah, it is great to have it back. Certainly some victory lapping going on, or whatever you call it. But just let it takes a while for the rest of the world to catch up. We knew that our research community was pretty far ahead of the game. And so it is what it is. People are catching up. It's great to see. And it's great to have the YouTube channel back. And let's see, I don't know if I can find the one that you did.
Well, let's do Mark Shaw video. I want to see that one.
Oh no, it was your Shaw video too.
Oh, okay.
It was it was just the one on your Twitter that I could find real quick, because we talked so much. I think that's probably the story that we dove into the most here this evening was the Brad Sherman and Shaw granddaughter, because it's like, yeah, they are making deals. The deals are being made behind the scenes. Trump's Middle East deals are materializing. So that's the one about Minnesota. But yeah, we'll leave it right there. Thanks for all you do, George. Thanks for joining us. Thank you all in the live chat for joining us. And we will leave it right there. See you next time in Neighborhood News. George Webb Investigates.
Okay. Hello, everybody. George Webb. Early returns on Israel-Iran. Looks like we're getting inklings, reports from our group of researchers around the world that Israel may even try to introduce the old royal family, the old Iranian royal family. Remember the Shah, remember the Pahlavis. They may try to introduce the Pahlavis after they do regime change. This is just hot off the press. I don't know if it's going to be true or not, but you may remember the Shah's granddaughter, I think, the Pahlavi, just married Brad Sherman in Chicago, where we just were for 5 days. Brad Sherman, Brad Sherman, not the congressman out here that we fight with. Not that Brad Sherman, the BlackBerry carrier Brad Sherman, but Brad Sherman of the drone delivery company. You may remember Neighborhood News talking about medical delivery, drone delivery in Africa. I think Aaron was looking at Zipline. I think Aaron was also looking at MatterNet for medical delivery for Africa. Also South America, Hillary countries in Central America as well. The whole medical delivery business. Talked to Aaron Adler about that, Africa, etc. But that's Brad Sherman's company, MatterNet. And it does matter. Medical delivery does matter for some things, especially if, like malaria and things like that, when you're fighting a Central American war. So that business isn't going very well. MatterNet isn't going very well. But when you marry the granddaughter of the Shah, right before Israel does regime change, you could be the new crown prince. Brad Sherman could be the new crown prince. They could be taking back the Shah. This is the dream of Peter Strzok. We'll see how it develops, but the Shah may be returning, or at least the Shah's blood, and also some medical delivery drone blood may be returning to Iran.
To support George Webb's citizen journalism, please subscribe to his Substack for $8 a month.